What's up, guys? This is Louis from the development, and today I have a special guest today, Morgan Rosenblum. How you doing?
What's going on, Louis? Thanks for having me, man.
Yes, thank you for coming on the show. I'm glad I got to reach out to you and see your Facebook and see what you do and tell us a little more. Tell us a little more about yourself.
So I'm a writer, creator, specifically in the comic book space. I've been doing it now for about almost 8 years. I used to work a 9-to-5 like sales job, I used to work for the New York Jets doing like cold call ticket sales and stuff, and then medical devices, but I've always had a creative passion, and then just kind of decided that I wanted to take a chance on myself creatively, kind of start from scratch. I wasn't waking up in the morning excited to go to work, and I know that a lot of people that's the case. They're not excited to get up and go to work, but I didn't want to not explore this, so I started writing a dark sci-fi series called Treadwater in like 2014 or something like that, 6 years ago maybe, or maybe before that. But anyway, wound up like launching a Kickstarter for it, and it did okay on that, and it kind of got some people to be like, oh, Morgan, I remember he used to draw as a kid, and he was making superheroes and stuff, and then friends and family started getting more involved in that, and then one thing kind of led to the other, and we built it into this big like thing that went far beyond just like a single issue comic. It turned into 2 graphic novels, like totaling 240 pages of comic artwork. We did like an interactive website. We cast live actors. We did a video game, an augmented reality app. Built this thing out, and then we went and shopped it around, LA, and trying to get it picked up as a TV or film, primarily as a TV series, because that's how we wrote it. It was a longer form. And we were getting some traction. We met with like a lot of the big name studios. We got picked up by a management company called 3 Arts Entertainment that really kind of got us on the map and helped us get us in the door at these places. But ultimately, I think timing wasn't right. It was no one said no, just no one said, here's a check to move forward with the show. And ultimately, it was too big of an entity or a title or an IP for 2 no-name writers, me and my co-writer Nat Prinzi at the time. So they were just kind of like, well, maybe this will be like the next project, and what else do you guys have going on that might be a little bit more doable? So we've been adapting that now as a smaller sort of like a more anthology-based animated series as opposed to live action, because we were going to do Treadwater as live action. But now that was like the kind of my claim to fame, if you will. And it's not that I'm famous by any means, but that put me on the map to a degree in the comic book space. But then I kind of disappeared a little bit. I got a little down because of the fact that we had pushed so hard with Treadwater and it wasn't getting picked up. And I started this other company called Hero Projects alongside 3 other people: Matt Medney, who's now the CEO of Heavy Metal magazine, Pete Voodoo Bones Russo, who's this graphic artist and genius executive creative director, and then my oldest friend, Jonathan Handler, Johnny, who I refer to as my womb-mate with a W, not my roommate, because I say this to everyone, both of our parents met in Lamaze class when they were pregnant with us. So like we've been friends like literally since we were little kids, or before we were kids, when we were fetuses.
That's awesome.
So what we did with Hero is we started making comics for like brands and celebrities. And we would like kind of turn them into storyline characters in like the animated form. So like we worked with Rolling Loud, which is the biggest hip hop like music festival, I believe, in the world. And we got to they had the rights to the market, like the likeness rights to all of their acts, right, that were performing, all of the that performed. So they were able to license their likeness for us to turn them into like a comic book. So we did like Migos, Future, Lil Uzi Vert, Post Malone, like all these big names that we were actually able to turn into, Meg the Stallion was in it and stuff. It's pretty cool. ASAP Rocky, Travis Scott, Meek Mill, like they're all in it. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
It's cool. And they all got it at the show. They sold the comics, or gave them away. I forget which one they did, as like part of the show exclusive, like merchandise memorabilia. But they also left them as presents for all the artists and musicians. Pretty cool. So they started hitting us up, being like, "Oh, these are awesome." And then word kind of traveled from that, and we started just making comics for a bunch of these celebrities. We did one for Shaggy, for the band 311. Do it for like a bunch of EDM groups and stuff. And now we're in talks with a couple of networks, which is cool, to develop comic books for their shows, which is Pretty cool.
Okay.
So that's been growing. That's it. And then but that is, again, that's me creating something for someone else, and like they give us usually like some sort of creative parameters or a brief. In some cases, they're like, all right, this client wants X, Y, and Z. Sometimes they're like, Shaggy was like really cool, where he was just like, you can do whatever you want, just make sure you pitch it to us first, and just be creative, have some fun with it, and like play around. Like, I would love it. Can we fit like a bunch of different storylines and cram them into like one short comic? And we're like, yeah, I don't know how we're going to do that, and we came up with the idea to make it so that it wound up becoming an animated music video, by the way, you can find on YouTube.
Okay.
And so for the song was called Body Good with Nicky Jam, and he's chasing a girl. Like, I guess he meets a girl at a nightclub, but you don't get to see him meet her. You just hear him talking about her, and he's in the car on the way home from the nightclub with Nicky Jam, and Nicky's like, yo, you get that girl's number? And he's like, come on, man. And then so he goes to his his like nice penthouse apartment or whatever when he gets dropped off, and he's like laying in bed, and he texts her, and you see that he's been left on red for like a couple hours or whatever, and he like zooms in on the left on red, like, how's this girl gonna leave me on red? Yeah. He falls asleep with the phone on his chest, right? And then as he goes into his dream, he like keeps chasing her in different settings of dreams, kind of like Inception. Okay. So like one is like a medieval dream where he's like trying to storm the castle, and she's like defending it, and she's like, you'll never take my castle, kind of thing. It's all symbolic, right? But then so ultimately, like, he breaks the walls, but then she shoots him with an arrow, and he dies in the dream and then wakes up on a spaceship, and now she's stolen the heart of the ship, this like orb, and he's got to go and pursue her. So like she just keeps killing him in different dreams, so he wakes up in another one. And that was kind of like the ultimate, like the theme we came up with, and they loved it. He and his team were like, yo, this is awesome. So we made that. But again, it's still making it for other people. So I was like, well, I haven't really made my own like series from scratch, I guess, in a while. Yeah. I had been wanting to work on a new one. So I partnered up with Johnny, my oldest friend, and we put in some of our own, I should say more than some, we put in like our life savings, or what we had saved up very recently to fund it ourselves. Cause like I'm a decent artist. Like, I'm pretty good, but I'm not on the level of some of these like pro sequential artists and comic artists. So we wrote like a series Bible, which is kind of the blueprint for writing a series, so that we know what direction it's going to go. And we wrote a couple of scripts for it, and then we paid an artist to go and do some content. We had like a concept art team that did all the characters and environments for this world of Winds of Numa Sera. That's the title. And then from that we did an issue #1 comic book. And once we had that, that's kind of like our prototype. We always say you have to spend money to make money. We didn't come up with that saying, but that's like the saying. And so So, and again, once you what I've personally found, and I think this speaks to all your listeners and viewers who are like, big in like the development, right, as a theme, is like, how do you get going, or how do you get started, or once you get started, what do you do next, kind of thing, right?
Correct. So,
it's like, have a plan, in the sense of like, all right, it's better just to execute than it is to tell. Like, show and tell. Like, everyone can come up with a cool idea. There's plenty of idea people out there, but not a lot of people that can execute the idea. And maybe it's not you that can execute it. You may need someone to partner with someone. Maybe it's another artist that's trying to get there. Like, you have a writer, and then you partner with an artist. You could be a one-stop shop for all that. Or maybe you need to hire someone, in which case, like, because you want the quality to be really good. You couldn't find the right partner that's willing to work for free or on equity or something like that. So instead, like, save up some money. There's no rush, right? Especially when you're talking about the creative stuff like this in your first title. Plan it properly, save up more to get the artist you want, and then do several pages or a snippet of that whole thing, and then you can put it on a Kickstarter, for example. I like Kickstarter in the sense that it allows you to really kind of build almost like a platform for your title as well. But one thing I would say, and I think this is a big misconception, is people just kind of assume that like random people will discover your project on Kickstarter. Not the case at all. I would say like 80% of the money that we wind up raising on our Kickstarter, and we just finished our Kickstarter for Winds of Numa Sera, and I'll get into that in a bit, but like comes from friends and family. And it's from outreach from myself and Jonathan and Johnny, right? I never call him Jonathan. I don't know why I said that. For me and Johnny, we're literally like, hey, this is our newest project we're working on. Like, you've always been a big supporter of the stuff we're doing. And I always try to phrase it in a way that's like, look, we understand like that we haven't spoken with you in a while, and now it's like we're asking for money. I want to be clear, like we're asking for support. There's an option where you can like enter in your own pledge amount that's like literally a penny, because no one's gonna say they don't have a penny. I mean, and if they do, it's like no one can't spare a penny. So what I say is like, but what I try to point out is that like supporting the project itself is the gesture of you doing that, which takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes of your day to do that. And a penny, like it will help us, because even though the money part of it won't help us, a penny's not going to do much. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it will. But you becoming a backer creates like a spike in the algorithm for the website, which will hopefully allow us to make like the featured page or climb up the leaderboard as far as activity goes. And so if you lead with that as your approach, less about the money and stuff, when you go with friends and family, what I found personally is that as people, friends and family or whatever it is, anyone that you reach out to, is they go to check out your campaign. If you've actually put the work in, right, and you have more than just a written idea, it's like, here's what some of the pages look like. Here's the world, and you can see the quality of that. People will be like, yo, this looks pretty cool. I'll give them. I already made the account. I can give them $20. I can give them $50.
I definitely like Kickstarter, because you keep people like updated. You get to show like, this is what we have next. This is what can be in the comic or whatever you're trying to promote. And I like the updates, because it's just like, I'll give you let's say $20, and then I get no update until knowing when your campaign is done, and then I'm just like, all right, what am I really getting? I know what I'm gonna get. I know what I'm gonna receive, but what am I getting?
Exactly. So that was, I mean, so it's interesting, because I've always kind of worried about, like, I don't want to spam people, right? I don't want to do too much stuff, but it's like, once they've already given money, at this point, you're not asking for anything anymore. At this point, it's giving back. It's like, let me, what I found is, in a lot of cases, aside from like my older aunts that could give two craps about really like what I'm like, they're not reading my comic book. They're just like, I want to support Morgan, you know, he's so creative. But the other, like, people like yourself that may have come across the campaign, or even like, you know, my friends or whatever, the ones that actually are into this kind of stuff, like they do appreciate, I found, seeing like the updates and stuff. And like, my latest update, which was like the success one, I even like kind of wrote it in the theme. I don't know if you got it, but I wrote it of like of the storyline. So instead of just being like, what's up, Kickstarter fam, I was like, dear fair citizens of Numa Sera, it is with great honor and pride that I announce we have successfully conquered the campaign known as Kickstarter. Like, just to try to make it feel a little bit fun and like different artwork.
Festive.
And I had a couple of friends and family reach out, and just people being like, yo, that was really fun. Like, that was cool. I
thought that was cool.
Cool. And so throw a like, by the way, that's another thing too. Support your creators. Let it just like, one thing I've always done too, that I found that has actually helped me in the long run. And I didn't do it for any other reason than just to be engaged, but like I'm very active on social media, and then I'm like, when I see something, if so long as it's not a controversial thing, I'll throw a like on that post, just as like a sign of acknowledgement. It doesn't even necessarily mean that like I like, but like, it's like, yo, I see you, you know. And sometimes I'll throw like a comment, even if I haven't spoken with someone in a while, just being like, hey, like, oh, this looks like a lot of fun, hope all is well. And I had been doing that over several years. And when I went and I reached out, when I launched my Kickstarter, I literally copy and pasted like a sort of short little paragraph about like being like, hey, as you know, I'm a creative person. Like, I have another Kickstarter that I'm launching. I know that it sounds like I'm just reaching out to ask for money. Pretty much summarize what I just explained to you, but I'd make sure to personalize it. I would change it at the beginning. So it was like, it was not just the person's name, but if like I knew them from high school, I'd be like, you know, hey, John, old high school friend, so that they knew that like, okay, this is clearly meant for me. And even though it is like the other part of it's templated, right? It's still better than receiving a spam email. And so that one-on-one engagement, I found like it did start up a bunch. It's a lot of like legwork on it, and people don't think how much it is. But that I would send out like maybe 50 of those a day to different people. And I like when I was telling this to like my dad, he was like, do you know like 50 people times 30 because it's 30 days? Like, do you know that? I was like, yeah, even in passing, sure. Like whether it's been like even I was doing it like to random follow. Like when I say random, like people that were like following me that maybe I had never met, and even they were like, well, you've always engaged in my posts and stuff like that. And so yeah, I'm happy to support something. And I even put in the end of the paragraph, and I mean it wasn't just talk, which is I said, when your time comes and you're throwing like you put yourself out there, let me know how I can return the support.
Yes, definitely. That's definitely what I like. That like you're right how you promote yourself, and in your writing. It's just like you're showing your what's the word, like you're thankful, and you say like, thank you for supporting me, and then like what, tell me, like leave in comments like what else I can do, or what else, like what more can we do to like show support and everything, which that's definitely what I like.
Yeah, it's just like, well, because the truth is, not everyone has. I mean, I would say 95% of the people you're reaching out to don't have something else that they're pursuing creatively, or whatever it is at this point. Maybe, you know what I mean? But like,
yeah,
maybe they're gonna run for like a walk for a cause or something like that, and you're gonna be like, whatever it is, when that time comes, like, let me know, I can support you. Because even if I can't give you the money you necessarily need for that, maybe I can at least like share it on my, like, I'll find another way to help you out or something like that.
Yeah.
And I find that like that type of building in the community in that way, like let's creators helping creators kind of thing, is like it's a good vibe.
Yes,
it's good to put that positive energy out there, and especially in times like this where you know, like it's only with the COVID and the pandemic going on, with COVID and the pandemic going on, it's like small businesses are struggling, right? But the same thing is like when you look at what I'm doing and what you're doing, these are small businesses too. They're indie creators and stuff trying to like pursue their passions. And I have this quote on my website. It's something that like I forgot who I had said it to specifically, but someone was like, "Yo, that's like, where'd you hear that quote from?" And I was like, "Nowhere." It's like someone once said, like, you know, like chasing your dreams is unrealistic. Like, how are you gonna quit your job, your safe job 9 to 5, like to just pursue creative writing, and you've never been like trained in this? And I'm like, well, I'm gonna do my due diligence on it, and I'm not just gonna think I know everything. I'm gonna like pursue it properly the same way I would at any career. I just have to start with it, which is scary. And they're like, yeah, well, that's really unrealistic. And then I kind of realized, I'm like, well, unrealistic is just a word that like scared people throw around to make them feel better about not having the guts to take a chance on themselves. And that like became the quote or whatever. So I threw that shit up on my website, and people like generally, it's like right on the home base, and people generally find it like, that's a really good saying. That's cool. Like, and
it's definitely true.
Like you can't be scared to take a chance on yourself, because what's going to happen is that the older we get, the faster the years fly by. You know, and the more responsibilities you have, generally speaking, the older you get. When you're younger, like you can kind of take more chances, you know, you don't have like necessarily a significant other or child or, you know, other stuff. And even if you have those things, for the record, that doesn't mean you can't. It's like, oh, I missed out. No, you can still do this stuff in your free time. It just might take you a little longer. But like, you know how you see in like a lot of these revenge stories, like movies, whatever it is, where they plotted out some plan, right? For like 10 years, 20 years, and now they execute it, right? And it works usually flawlessly, or it's like, wow, how do they have everything covered, or whatever it is? Or like if you even think of something like a heist movie, it's like they planned very well. So like what I would say is have a plan. And even if you're like, well, I don't know where to start, well, think about it in your head. Like, okay, well, I'm going to need a product, right? Or like my story, I know I can write the script, but I'm going to need an artist. So that's part of your plan. You're going to get an artist. Well, can you get one through a partnership where you just pay them and splitting the equity? Maybe not. Okay, maybe you have to raise some funds. Okay, well, how much is it going to cost? And start mapping that shit out, right? And then, okay, what do I do once I actually have the book? Well, now I need to market it. Well, okay, well, I don't know the first thing about marketing. So Google, you know, digital marketing and find out ways that you can do that. And you know, then you might realize I need more of a budget for that. So there's always like there's the money way of doing it, and then there's the organic way, right? Both can work for you, because if you have a lot of money in savings, power to you. Try doing it that way. But if you don't, you're gonna have to do it the other way. Just don't be impatient, and have a plan, because a dream without a plan is just a fucking wish.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with you with that. Just like, you know, this is my very first podcast, and you know, I appreciate everybody that supports me and like who's been watching. I've gotten comments. I've gotten people like, oh, you should do this. You should do that. And I really am appreciative of that. And this was just like a thought. Like I didn't really think like it was going to go anywhere. And I was just like, I'm not going to rush this. I'm not going to be all like down about it if I don't get a certain amount of views or like likes or comments, or like maybe not even at all. Like I'm just gonna take it day by day, and if it gets to where it needs to be, then I'll keep pushing. But if it doesn't, you know, like I still got my job, I still do this on the regular, and I'll just keep it moving until like maybe that one day it'll just go fly
Yeah,
up there.
I think it's a combination. Like, I don't know if you follow Gary Vee. You know who that is?
I'm not too sure.
Okay, he's a content creator as well and big on social media. He's a big advocate of creating content. There's multiple things that he advocates for, but one of which is being patient and creating content and then increasing the quality of your content. So you're not just like it's a combination of making sure that you're constantly putting stuff out there, especially if you have a podcast, right? So if you do it every Wednesday, it's got to be every Wednesday, right? Keep consistency, because then it becomes like getting the paper in the morning for some people, or checking, sports kind of thing. It becomes part of their routine, and then they become reliant on it. And then after a while, it starts to spread. But it's the longevity that really will allow you to be successful. It's very rare that people go viral. And if you try to go viral, you won't succeed. It's something, the whole concept of going viral is not, it's like a virus. It's like it just kind of spreads wildfire uncontrolled and you don't have any say in it.
It literally just happens. Like you can just say one word on TV or on the internet and then everybody's just sharing it.
Don't aim for viral. Instead, consistency. Don't it's just accept that it won't. Even if it does happen, great. But that's like a nice little pleasant surprise. Instead, keep doing what you're doing, Lewis, and build the podcast out. Be consistent with it. The quality of your the editing in it too. Even if you make slightly less, but the quality looks good. I'm a big advocate of quality and not just frequency. I guess it depends what it is. So if you have a show, just making sure that the show stays consistent. But with me, it's anytime I put a piece of work out there that you can look up later. So if for example, Treadwater 1, my first book, in hindsight, I look back at it and I really don't like it. And a lot of people are like, what? That was your first thing. And I love the story of Treadwater and the IP itself, the intellectual property of it, the characters I love, but the actual writing of the very first book, it's the first thing I ever wrote. Right. I didn't have my amazing creative partner, Nat Prinzi, on it, as well as just I wasn't as leveled up as a writer as I am now. I just feel like I've grown a lot. And a lot of people, other people in the industry that have read my writing have told me the same thing. Your writing is night and day different where it's at now compared to where it was. I just feel like my stuff was more cliche back there. It was less imaginative. I had some cool moments and stuff. But so I wish I could redo the first book solely because of the writing aspect of it and stuff. And that's part of it, to kind of reboot it. But so when I talk about having a plan and creating the content, it's what you put out there, especially if you're doing a book, is probably going to stay out there. Now, that doesn't mean you should, the opposite is true in that you don't want to hold on to it forever and be so scared to put it out there, because then no one will ever see it. And one of the biggest fears that a lot of people don't even notice about me, but because I'm so outgoing and passionate, but I do have fear in putting showing the world the stuff I'm working on, because what if they don't like it, or what if they like the old stuff,
or you get judged or something,
or whatever, or doesn't do well and I fail again. I am afraid of failure, but I'm more afraid of not trying and growing old and then and being I was a pussy and didn't have the balls to actually give it a chance.
Yes. Talking about your first comic that you dropped, I'm going to be honest with you. When I saw you on Instagram, or I don't know if you follow me or I followed you, you know how that works on Instagram algorithm. I didn't know anything about you. I didn't know anything. I just fully looked through your whole thing. I was like, oh, this guy looks interesting. I saw Treadwater. I saw your new one, your new comic that you're coming out with on your Kickstarter. And I was just like, what is this? Of course, I had to message you and I wanted to get you on the show. But talk about Treadwater, because since I didn't know much about you, I had to do some research, and I looked up Treadwater #1 and I found it on Comixology, if that's how you say it correctly. And I found it, and I read it, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is good. There was some a little critique, there was some dull moments, but it kept going with a flow where where you was trying to go with your story.
If you read, I'm not sure if you read part 2 as well. Part 2 is that was a couple years later. I brought on additional. I wasn't afraid to collaborate and bring on other people. So Nat Prinzi is one of my oldest friends too. He's really strong creative, and we really kind of reworked the direction of it and decided there was just a lot more planning that went into it. So we cut in flashbacks. It has, and when that book came out, the reviews for that was this is far surpasses the sequels is so much better
than
the
first one.
Yeah, and that was cool.
I didn't get up to the second one yet. I was,
that's the tier that I went to, which was
with
like
all the holidays and everything.
The second one, you know, because of the first one. It's just like it's written differently. It's a different artist too. When I was Ray Dillon did the first book, who's a very accomplished Marvel artist. He's done a bunch of work. He's a really good colorist too. But I didn't even know what to look for as like a comic editor. Now I'm actually a comic editor at Heavy Metal Magazine, where I do this for a living. But
that's awesome.
when I was first doing that, it was like I didn't even know how to structure a script in like comic format. So like when I would write my script, it was like on Final Draft, which is the program, the software we use to write scripts.
Okay.
And it was like I just gave it to the artist and was like, "Can you convert this into 100 and something page, you know, book or whatever it was?" And he was just kind of like, "Sure," because he knew that I wasn't like an actual comic book editor and didn't know how to do that. So he was like, "I'll do the heavy lifting for you." Now, when I write a script, once I'm done writing it, I literally convert it over into the comic format, which is like page 1, panel 1, establishing shot of whatever, so that that's kind of the format you do it with. So it, you know, it just comes with practice and being willing to to get better and being willing to do the research and speak with other people.
Definitely. I will tell you, I did like the artistry and the drawing of Treadwater. It looked, I liked it. To me, I liked it personally. I don't know.
It's not a traditional.
Everybody has their own it's okay, but you know, I liked it personally.
Book won an award. I think it won the gold medal for reader's favorite for art in a graphic novel series.
Nice.
So, because it has a very like painterly vibe, and it's not your traditional line art and stuff. But you know, like I'm very critical of certain things now going back when you look at it, you know, 8 years later, 6 or whatever it is. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, interesting. I would have done this slightly differently. Now I really control every panel when I work with my artists now. I mean, I certainly give them freedom, but I'll usually, if I don't like a certain shot, rather than just kind of leaving it to the artist, like, well, he knows best. Now I've you know, I'm an art director as well, so I'll plan that a lot more. But you know, fast forward now with Winds of Numa Sera, where we're at, it's I'm like, this is the art, like my first hard fantasy title that I'm putting out there in the form, and it was pretty exciting to see like people's overall responses to it, like the artwork on this and like what the overall story was.
I will tell you, when I clicked on it from your Instagram, I was like, oh, what's this? And I was like, looked at it and I was like, it gives me that medieval, you know, of course it has that medieval times, but it gives me that that WoW, the World of Warcraft type of vibe. And I was just like, oh, okay. I was looking at the drawings. I was like looking like what you have up and everything. I was just like, this looks great. The drawing looks great. Some of like the writing from what I was reading looks great. I was just like, this has like World of Warcraft vibes. Yeah. Or like
I like it a lot more to
Lord
like
of the Rings.
Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings for the most part. There's like a lot of like Dragon Age vibe, Skyrim, type of stuff. But it's ultimate world building, where we created like an entire world, you know, like a Middle Earth or a Westeros or any of those kind of things, where like we've created cultures, religions, different races. We were trying to avoid using just the typical dwarf and elf and stuff like that. And so we tried to dig a little deeper and come up with things that haven't necessarily been seen, that kind of were like a hybrid of certain things. But we've created, so there's with the arts that I think you're referring to, there's two different kinds that you'll see. The concept art, which we use for like the creation part of it, that's like the more cinematic, painterly style, and it's like a little, it looks more like photo real almost, where we use that for like primarily if we were going to like pitch it as a TV series or a movie or something like that, we would use that kind, because it speaks to live action more. And then you have like the sequential artwork, which is the comic book itself. That's very different style. That's more traditional line art, hard shadows, and you know, it's panel by panel, it tells the story. But I love both, like in the process.
I would definitely agree with you. I do love both. You know, everybody has their own flow of how they're drawing it, and the colors and everything's just popping, and it just, to me, I would definitely I'm just like, this looks good. This looks great.
I can't wait for you to read the story, because I'm a pretty good judge now of like what's like when I'm writing something that's good or crap. And even I can still write crap now, and I'll go back and I'll write it like days later, I'm like, this is bad. This needs so much work. And my dad, and granted, he's my blood, so he's or I'm his blood or whatever. So he is biased, but he's the most unbiased. If anything, he's the other way. Like, it's so hard to impress my dad, where he's just, son, like he doesn't do it in a mean way, but my mom like will literally think my poop is gold. Whereas like my dad is like, you need to do a lot better to impress me. And he appreciates effort, but he knows my mom's like always going to shower me with attention and affection. So it's like, he's also like a writing, he went to like MIT for writing and creative writing, which is odd because like MIT is like a science-based school. Very intelligent, a really good writer. So he reads my stuff and edits it and will tell me honestly, like, well, he finds like a nice way to say like, this sucks. But has lately with this one, he's been like, Morgan, this is some of your best writing ever. Like, this is not just your best writing,
awesome.
Great writing. And so like, as I said, I know it's my dad, but when you understand the context of him kind of shitting on some of my other stuff that I've done to him now liking this, it like gets me excited because I'm like, all right, well, if he likes it, then this must mean it's pretty good. And the other people that have read this so far are pretty.
So can you say like he inspired you to keep pushing forward with, your comics and starting more writing and of your comics?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Interestingly enough, though, he was one of the people ultimately that I think was more like, I want you to go into creative, but you need to have like a plan. And like, are you sure you want to give up your steady, if you're really
9 to 5
time? I was climbing in like the sales ladder, you know what I mean? Or like in the corporate side and not the creative side. And I think he's more of the realist, whereas my mom was more of like, go pursue your dreams, darling, kind of thing. But now that I've like was able to, but again, it doesn't mean parents are always right about that kind of stuff, because I think my dad, it took me a little while to get here, but now I'm working for heavy metal. I'm as an editor in the space, like I've transitioned into the creative space. And now I remember when I first left the sales gig and I got in contact with like a creative recruiter or like a headhunter that could help get me to the right places. And he was looking at my resume and then my portfolio, which at the time only consisted of Treadwater 1, right? And it was like, so you've only made this comic for yourself. You've never done anything creative for anyone else. And like, he's like, you sure you really want to go here? I feel like I can get you a job anywhere you want in sales, and I was like, no, I need to, like, he didn't even.
I want this. Yeah.
I was like, and he was just like even pushing, and he was like a creative recruiter. He was kind of like, I don't think you're not as valuable here to me, and I can't get you as much. So it was tough because I had to really just believe in myself and stick with it, and then just like kind of do it on the side.
Well, what made you just one day just snap and be like, I want to leave. This is what I want to do.
So I started writing. I think it was a matter of me putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard and starting to actually write. A lot of us as creatives, we have ideas in our head, right? We're like, I have an idea, but a lot of people don't take the time to write it, like type it out or write it out. Once you start doing that, it becomes like for me, it became an obsession. Like, and it just started snowballing. And I was like, I got into what we call a flow state. It's like the opposite of a writer's block, right? It's like where you just start, now ideas are pouring. And they always say, write your first draft with your heart, your second one with your head. So don't worry about being so articulate and being a wordsmith when you're starting. It's just like, just get the ideas out, just start getting stuff out, write it down so you can go back, and then you have the ability to edit something, right? So I just started writing like in my lunch breaks at my job at the time. Or like, even here, and then it started to bleed from my lunch breaks, like a little past that, or I would just I had an idea and I would just take a little break from my outreach emails and I'd start writing it. And then after a while, I was like, I need to do this full time. I don't know if it means I'm taking a hiatus from my job or I'm going to pursue this full time seriously, but I can't even focus on my job at work anymore because this is all I want to do. And that was what really led to it. And so to answer your question, what really inspired me to do it, I had always been creative. I'd always wanted to do that, but I had never executed anything or really like applied myself to doing it. And once I just literally started writing it, I couldn't stop, and I haven't stopped since.
That sounds like me. Like when I first started thinking of this, because this is run by my friend. She's a marketer for MDMC Entertainment. That's her business. And I was just at work, and work is work. You just go with your day and whatever. And it just popped in my head because I had all this equipment and stuff, and I was just like, what can I do with this? And I was like, I could do a podcast, I could do YouTube, and I was just like, but what? and then like how you're feeling, how you're telling me is just like exactly how I felt. I was like, I want to do this. I should do this. Let me think of a name. Let me think of what I want to do. Content.
Yeah, now
like,
you're creating a brand around this, around the development, around, around MDM Entertainment. Like, it's awesome, and I salute you. And that's why I wanted to do it. When when you reached out, I rarely say no to other collaborators. The only time I think I would say no is if I feel like it's either it's too controversial where it might put me in a poor light, or if it's like if it's very, very like raw, or where but even in that case, I may still do it just because like I want to help. If I feel like the person has a dream or a plan. In your case, like you have I like the aesthetic of it, and I feel like the quality's there.
Thank you.
Intelligent and stuff. So I was like, yeah, let me jump on this.
Thank you.
Speaking
Appreciate it.
Of jumping on, I got to get going. I train with my dad pre-jet ski. So I have 45 minutes to work out with him right now. But
all right, no worries.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on the show. I definitely appreciate you talking about your new comics. I want everybody to check it out. I want everybody. Where can people find you so they can like look you up and look up your comic?
Sure. So you can. My own personal website is morganrosenblum.com. I'm sure you can probably put in like the comments or something like that.
I definitely will.
Where you can see pretty much like all the stuff that I'm working on right now, from like heavy metal to hero projects, which is the custom comic company, to Treadwater, to Winds of Numa Sera. And then on my my Instagram is spoon_city, spoon like the eating utensil _city. And then that's probably the best place to find me for stuff. And then Winds of Numa Sera is the newest title, like I said, which is advertised pretty much everywhere you see me. So.
All right, awesome. Guys, they'll definitely be down in the description. I appreciate everybody that's watching today. You can find me on Instagram, it's _official, and you can also follow MDMC Entertainment on Facebook, Instagram, and our YouTube page. Thanks for everything, Morgan. I really appreciate you. Much success. I can't wait for your new comic to come out, and I'll definitely be reading that, and I'll definitely be checking out part 2 of Treading Water.
Treadwater.
Yes. You have a good day, man.
You too. Have a good one.
Hey guys, I'm Morgan.
I'm Johnny.
We're the co-creators of Winds of Numa Sera, and we're also
best friends and roommates.
For the record, he said roommates with a W. Why?
Both of our moms met Lamaze class before we were born.
True story. We've been best friends ever since. So, Winds of Numa Sera is an epic fantasy graphic novel series where you need your help to raise funds to complete the first book in the series.
We know times are tough, but anything you can contribute would be greatly appreciated. And if you can't, share us with your network.
Because exposure is one of the best things that you can do for us. We've got a bunch of awesome awards for you to pick from. One of my personal favorites is this series Bible concept art book that features art of the characters and of the kingdoms, little backstories on everything. Some awesome stuff. So take a look through some of the rewards, find what speaks to you the most, and we really appreciate you joining us on this journey. One of the cool things about Kickstarter is that it allows you to kind of see behind the scenes and become part of this process. So we thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Morgan.
I just let's
He
say I'm Morgan
doesn't know who he is.
too.
You were about to say you were Morgan?
I was just
He
saying
wants
I
to
was
be here. You okay? Alright, take it easy.
He's got the case of the giggles.
That's
Alright,
fine.
Come on.